Let's go ahead and create a new file here in the for loops project and call it counting. Okay, so now we're going to talk about counting variables. So I want to put here a counting variable is one that is used to count by a certain number. Okay, so how do you create a counting variable? Well, let's go ahead and create a for loop and say for I in range 10. And in here, I'm going to ask the user to enter in a number. Okay, so I'm going to say number is equal to input, and I'm going to say here enter a number. Okay, now every time they enter a number, I want a variable to count how many times they entered a number. Okay, let me put here, this program will count how many numbers the user entered in. So how do I do that? Well, to create a counting variable, it follows the same formula. Okay, you do the same thing. What you need to do is you need to create the counting variable, some variable. I'm going to make it equal to count. Name it count, and you need to set it equal to its first value. So I want my count to start at 0, so I'm going to set my count variable equal to 0. Okay. If you want the count to start at 10, you would set it equal to 10. If you wanted to start at -10, you would set it equal to -10. But usually when we count, we want to start counting at 0. So we do that. We create our variable, set it equal to its first value outside of the loop. Okay, outside of the loop. We do not do it inside of the loop. We do it outside of the loop. And then inside of our loop, we have the same variable on both sides of the equal sign, and we add however much we want to count by. All right. So we've seen this before, I believe, and we're just going to go over it a little bit more explicitly this time. And so how does this work? Well, counts equal to 0. The first time I want to put here 0. It comes into the for loop, and let's maybe change this down to 3, and it reads in the input. So the user enters in a number, and then it does the right side of the equal sign first. So it does this expression, which is count plus 1. And what is count equal to? Well, right now it's equal to 0. Right? So it's going to do 0 plus 1. So count's going to equal to 1. So I want to put a 1 here. Right? Count's now equal to 1. And then it's going to come back up. It's going to execute again. So we're going to enter another number in. And it's going to come down here, do the right side of the equal sign. Count's going to be equal to 1 now. So it's 1 plus 1. So now count's equal to 2. And then it comes back up and it executes the for loop again. They enter a number in, and it does count plus 1. So it does 2 plus 1. So now count is equal to 3. And then by that time it comes up to the for loop, and now the for loop has executed 3 times already. So it ends the program. And down here I could print out count. And it should print out 3. Okay. So let's go ahead and try that out and see if it actually works. So I enter a number. This is not the right program. So I'm going to hold Control, click, and say Run Counting. I'm going to enter number 3, 2, 1, and then bam, it prints out my 3. Okay. So I could also make this a little bit more easy to read, and I could say you entered plus str, turn that number into a string, do plus numbers. Okay, so make it a little bit more easier to read, and so I can go ahead and hit run and do 1, 2, 3. You entered 3 numbers. Okay. So this is a way that you can have your program count. Okay, so maybe I could change this up a little bit, and instead of having the program count how many numbers the user entered in, maybe I can count the numbers rolled by a pair of die. By a die. Okay. Count the numbers rolled by a dice. Okay, so I'm going to have my count variable inside of my loop, rolled by count the numbers rolled by a dice. Okay, so let's go ahead and roll the dice 3 times. Okay, so here I'm going to put here, what did you roll? Enter your roll. And so here I'm going to change num to roll. And what I want to increase count by is the number that they rolled. So I'm going to add rolled here. Okay. So then, and then I'm going to put here on the printout, I'm going to say the total of your rolls is, and then I'm going to print out count. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this program and see if it works. And so how is it going to work? Well, we set count equal to 0. So count's going to be equal to 0. It's going to come in here, and let's say I roll a 6. So then it's going to come to this side of the equal sign, and it's going to do 0 plus 6. So count's going to be equal to 6. And then it's going to come back up and execute again. And let's say I roll a 3 this time. So I'm going to enter 3. Roll is equal to 3. Then it's going to do count plus roll. What is count equal to? Well, it's equal to 6. So it's going to be 6 plus 3. So now count is going to equal to 9. And then it's going to come back up and it's going to say, oh, enter your roll again. Let's say I entered a 1 this time. So roll is equal to 1. So it does count plus roll. Well, count is equal to 9. Roll is equal to 1. So now count is equal to 10. And then it's going to print out, the total of your rolls is 10. Right? So let's go ahead and run this program and see if it actually works. Let's do 6, 3, and 1. And it says the total of your rolls is 10. So here we can use a counting variable, and to summarize, how does it work? We create our variable outside of the loop, set it equal to its first value, which is usually going to be 0. Inside of the loop, you have the counting variable on both sides of the equal sign, and you either add or subtract however much you want to count by. So if you wanted to go down by a certain number, you would subtract by that number. If you wanted to go up by a certain number, you would add that number here. Right? So that's the way this is working, and I'm going to have you do a couple of challenge exercises to make sure you understand the process.